Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of Captain Marvel, the movie from Marvel Studios. This is the movie that just came out, and I'm going to give non-spoiler thoughts, and then I will let you guys know when I'm about to give you spoilers. Non-spoiler review is that it's good. I enjoyed it. I like Captain Marvel coming out of it. That's pretty much its purpose. I was pumped for Endgame by the end of it, so it did its job. Criticisms would be that some of the action scenes are shot way too dark. It was kind of hard to make them out. But that is a criticism very, very common in action movies. I had the same issue with Spider-Man Homecoming. But it's not every action scene, but, there's definitely some scenes at the beginning. I'm just like, guys, could we get a light in here? And another thing is it comes at you really, really fast. There's a lot of plot twist, a lot of characters you're going to just meet that turn out to be Skrulls, and you really need to be paying attention. You need to be engaged in order to follow the movie. It's not for, a casual moviegoer who's just going to somewhat pay attention. They're not going to be able to follow this. But if you are going to sit there and pay attention and be engaged with this movie, you should be fine. I really enjoyed it. I love the plot twist. I love all the different things that they did with the Skrulls. I thought they were done very, very well. They look great. They were written well. It's been worth the decade-long wait to see them on the big screen. Same thing with the overpowered cosmic hero, which we finally got in this movie, as you could probably tell from the trailers, and that was really great to see on the big screen. And just overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and I came out, again, liking Carol Danvers, which, to me, she was just kind of okay in the comics, and then I saw this and went, yeah, I'm down with that. So anyway, that is the non-spoiler version. So to get into spoilers, please stop the video if you have not seen the movie. But so they do a combination of Mar-vell's story and Carol's story, kind of combining 40 years worth of stuff into one movie and just kind of streamlining it and kind of avoiding a lot of the searching and misfires and things that they've done over the past 40 years with those characters, where they'll lose their powers, regain them, have a different direction, have a different name, have a different costume. All that gets wiped out. We just get a very streamlined combination of a Kree soldier who comes to Earth and discovers that, not everything is right with the Kree command. Just like the original Mar-vell, except we're doing it with Carol. And we're mixing in, her not knowing who she is and having a mysterious origin, just like the early comics, except done better. I didn't really like the way that the early 70s comics had her passing out and then waking up as Miss Marvel and not remembering and stuff like that. This deals with it in a much, much better way, in a much more identifiable way than I felt. And it's just done well. They do, even though obviously Carol is taking the place of Mar-vell, she is that Kree soldier at the beginning, and by the end she is the cosmically powered protector of the universe, and she's like, I love the line. There's a wonderful scene at the end where she tells her former commanding officer, that she's going to come and overthrow the Kree by herself. And she absolutely can do that. And that was just an awesome scene. I don't think she actually tries it, because obviously the Kree's still there. I think she probably became sidetracked with the Skrulls. And, that's probably a good thing. Captain Marvel should protect life as opposed to, blowing up an entire planet. But it's still fun to think that she could if she wanted. But there is actually a character named Mar-vell in the movie. And so I am totally fine with the changes they made to Mar-vell, because it makes sense. So we weren't going to get this guy. I mean, I love Mar-vell to death, but we weren't going to get him. And I think the Mar-vell that they gave us was very evocative of the early character. Very, she was a Kree soldier sent to be a spy on Earth, and she was a scientist. She was, she had sympathies to the Skrulls. She was a very noble character that Carol revered, just like she did with this guy. So I think they captured a lot of the important parts of Mar-vell for Carol and made her a woman, which I think made sense because I think the origin's just kind of odd for Miss Marvel. She's being carried by Captain Marvel when this kind of Kree doohickey explodes. And it's supposed to have some kind of wish fulfillment properties to it. And so she wants to be like Captain Mar-vell, and she ends up getting his DNA. And so Miss Marvel started out as a feminist superhero. She's, a liberated woman. And so one of the criticisms was like, okay, she got her powers from a man. The explanation that the writer gave was that women's liberation was about trying to be a man's equal and trying to, get those rights and the respect that a man has. So, that wish is what created Miss Marvel. I can see both sides of that argument, but I do like the idea that she didn't get her DNA from a man that made her a superhero. It was always just kind of a weird origin to begin with. And so making Miss Marvel a female, I felt made all the sense in the world. I like that. And I liked that we took out the whole getting the DNA from anyone else in her origin. Like there's an explosion and she absorbs power from it, and essentially she is a walking infinity gem, which I really like. And they really just simplified the origin. I've read 5 issues of the 70s Miss Marvel. I can't really explain to you how her powers work. It's confusing to me. But this I understood, and I okay, can we just keep this one origin and this one set of powers? Just keep it simple, guys. Because in the comics, I just have a hard time figuring it out. So I like the way that they simplified things. And I liked it. She does deal with some sexism in the movie, but it's not the old Miss Marvel comics where she's dealing with J. Jonah Jameson, who's a complete sexist pig. I mean, he's just you look up male chauvinist in the dictionary, you would see J. Jonah's picture in this series. There are a few scenes in the flashback where people tell her, you can't do this because you're a woman. And then there's a guy, and then there's a scene with the dude with the bike who tells her she should smile more. And I wanted to get up and just applaud at that because I don't know. I mean, I know it's a really common thing women are told, but it was just so perfect with that bizarre reaction that first trailer got. That was in the movie, and she, steals the dude's bike. I just wanted to get up and just applaud like you go. But it was good. It wasn't like Peggy Carter, which was just like Peggy Carter versus sexism every episode or something, It was a very minor point, but I think, the way they did the feminist aspect of it was just more subtle, and I felt more satisfying. It's the first movie I've seen like that where the female hero is both fully clothed and we're not ogling over how good she looks in tight leather. It's kind of refreshing. I mean, I know James Cameron got a lot of flack for what he said about Wonder Woman, but this is the movie he was talking about. I mean, he didn't know it at the time, but this is exactly the sort of movie he was describing, where the female is treated like any other superhero. She's not there to be sexy. She's not there to titillate you. She's not there to, you know, to fall in love with a guy. She's, you know, her origin story does not revolve around a man. And look, there's nothing wrong with any of that in Wonder Woman, but it is a bit of baggage with that character, the costume, the fact that her origin story revolves around falling in love with a man, etc., that Miss Marvel didn't have, Captain Marvel didn't have. And I really like that, and it was just a really refreshing change of pace to me. And I would like to think we can get more movies like this. Um, and so like I said, I enjoyed, you know, the twist they did on her origin. She's not the most engaging or relatable character, but I liked her by the end of the movie. Um, and I honestly didn't come in there with a lot of love for Carol Danvers. I appreciate the character. I think she's decent, but I just haven't really ever read a story that really engaged me with her in it. You know, she just kind of blends in with other characters who can fly and punch things in the comics. But this one really made me, you know, take notice and like, yeah, I like that. You know? And I like the twist they put on the scrolls. I mean, it's different from what I'm used to them being portrayed as, but, you know, being the sympathetic refugees works, and it doesn't negate them as villains in the future. It actually probably sets it up because essentially they're at the same point in the movie where they've been at in the last couple decades in the comic, where their home world has been destroyed. And so what happens in the comics is there's a plotline called Secret Invasion, a big crossover, where this one female Skrull who's a religious extremist kind of gathers all the others, and she decides that Earth is their promised land, that Earth is, you know, where God has destined them to rule. And so they do this big infiltration of Earth and try to take over. And I suspect something like that might happen. I think there's probably enough Skrulls out there that we might run into some extremist factions, you know, along the way. And the way that they did the Skrulls also possibly sets up Hulkling as well. If you're not familiar with that character, Mar-vell actually has several children. There's one that's genetically engineered that becomes a successor, you know, that becomes Captain Marvel for several years in the comics. I think he's dead now. But he has two children that were actually like born like regular people. And both of them are actually gay. One was a daughter who is now, I believe she's now dead. She was in Guardians of the Galaxy as Quasar. And then the other is a son who becomes Hulkling in the Young Avengers. And he is the son of Captain Marvel and a Skrull. So, this Captain Marvel we see in the movie, or Mar-vell, that Mar-vell character we see in the movie, hangs around Skrulls a whole lot. She apparently has a lot of love for Skrulls, so it might not be unreasonable to think that she might have a romantic relationship at some point with one of them and produce a child. And since they're already hovering above Earth, it seems very plausible that that child might end up in foster care and might end up, you know, producing a character very, very similar to what we saw in the Young Avengers comic with Hulkling. I think it's very plausible we might see a Young Avengers TV series or movie. It would probably require a time jump for most of the characters to, you know, have children that would be old enough for that. But I think, you know, when you're doing movies, that's probably a pretty easy thing to do. You know, just be like, hey, it's so many years after Endgame, and, you know, our kids are teenagers now, you know. But I would definitely be on the lookout because for a character like Hulkling, because there's been no LGBTQ representation so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that is definitely something that they're looking to add next. As far as, you know, the way that they dealt with, you know, the story taking place in the past, I think that was dealt with well. It's not really a movie about the 90s, but I mean, it looks like the 90s. I like the songs they throw in there. And I felt like they put in characters that would make sense to put in a story set in that time frame. At first, I thought Nick Fury was just going to be tacked on, but no, I enjoyed him. I mean, it was. I liked the humor. I liked the camaraderie he had with Carol Danvers. I felt like the humor did go a little too far at the end. With the way he lost his eye, with him singing the Mar-vells at the end, but that's just something I've come to expect from the Marvel movies. They're just going to carpet bomb you with humor, and sometimes, depending on your sensibilities, it will go a little far and get a little silly. But I did like Nick. I felt like they did a really good job with all the characters. I felt Jude Law probably needed a little more time to develop his character. I felt like, there was definitely a connection. I knew there was a connection there between him and Carol Danvers. I knew that, she was very sympathetic and respected him. But I felt like that relationship could have been developed more, and I suspect there will probably be some cut scenes that will probably flesh that out. But I understand they had limited time, and I was okay with her, commando crew being basically flat characters. We just didn't really get to know them at all because it's not their story. They're there to basically just show that this was a whole commando unit. She was from Star Force, and not really there to be characters in their own right. And there is good arguments to be made that maybe the ending was a little anticlimactic, because none of the villains stood a chance against Captain Marvel. But to me, that was the point. I was totally cool with that because it establishes how powerful she is. So when we see her again in Endgame and she's fighting Thanos, we know that, like, okay, this lady should be able to take him. And we see, is she somewhere around that power level? Is he like way above her? We'll see. I mean, obviously, if he still's got the Infinity Gems, that's going to be a problem. So we'll see. I really, really am looking forward to Endgame. I love the post-credit. Got me pumped. Like I said, definitely looking forward to that next Avengers movie. So anyway, that's all my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below if you liked the movie, what you thought about the movie. Do you have any Carol Danvers reading recommendations for me? Because I'm not that familiar with the character other than her appearances in Avengers. I mean, is there really good stories I would just really get down with? I've recently read Life of Captain Marvel, the one that they did recently with Carol Danvers, and I did enjoy that one. So if there's anything else out there I should try, let me know. Like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.